Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. The passageway north. So this is Moat Cailin. I admit, Delia, that I am expecting something more, comments Marcella, staring with a frown at the dilapidated ruin that is the moat. Moat Cailin, the jewel stronghold of the north. Many tales are told about it. It is said that the great fortress had thrown about countless Andal invasions during its time, protecting the culture of the north from the assimilation down south. Now it stands, a monument of achievement, a stalwart constant that gives voice to anyone who dare pass of a culture that is different from what they are used to. It has been many years when it first started Sela, and it is probably one of the oldest castles in Westeros right now. Are you expecting something else? Deliana asks in no small amount of amusement. Well, when you put it that way, no. Still, however, it is the gateway of the north. Shouldn't the Northmen, probably put some effort on maintaining it? It is supposed to be their primary and first line of defense from the south. I've been to Casterly Rock many times. Dilly and I've seen Grandfather put up a lot of effort on the borders that mark the Westerlands. He tends to say that it is the first impression that dictates their opinion on you. Your grandfather is wise, Princess Marcella. I'm glad to see and hear that you put his lessons to heart. Marcella simply shrugs at her reply. I do, and I like to listen anyway. She smirks mischievously at Deliana, then. I have an inspiration, who mentions once that she can't bear to be around dull people. You have a great inspiration. You should let me meet here then, Sela, quips Deliana to the teasing. Oh, you will Delia. This time Marcella leans in where she can whisper at the ear of the taller young woman. Yasmina is great, but she doesn't have your stamina. I do expect your presence at my tent tonight. This time she ends the words with a purr. Your wish is my command, your highness, I will be there, replies Deliana, feeling blood rush at her cheeks, as she can feel perfectly the bosom of her lover pressed at the side of her arms, due to her leaning in. Bloody tease, she simply snorts before focusing her attention on the ruin that is Moat Cailin. Very well, this time her voice has a victorious tinge on it. I will go and help Commander Draco out organizing the tents. Have fun waiting, and with that, she walks off with an extra sway of her hips that Deliana can't help but stare at unashamedly. For all her reasons, Deliana knows that Marcella has a good point. The fortress of Moat Cailin is the stronghold of the north, their buffer against the south, per se. While indeed it is old, she knows that it is built to last. Deliana can literally feel the latent magic lingering on the stones. Age and time have atrophied it down a lot, but it is still there. The first men who built this fortress have imbued it with strengthening spells. She would bet all the gold in her pocket space that this one of the Green Seers might have seen the coming of the Andals and their intent on spreading their faith all over the continent. It seems pretty convenient for the first men to build a giant stronghold smack dab on the narrow entrance heading north, when the entire continent belongs to them before. Either way, the fact remains that the Honorable Lord Starks, for some reason that Deliana can't wrap her head around, seems to have failed on giving the slightest bit of attention to the North's mighty stronghold. Deliana truly understands the North's attitude towards conversing money and supplies due to the harsh weather conditions it faces. However, to not even give the slightest bit of maintenance on your primary defense for a potential invasion seems to be an idiotic thing to do. How great a cheat magic really is when being compared to the mundane. It is not her problem, however. If the North chooses to neglect their own border security, then Deliana would let them do so as long as her investment here at Sea Dragon Point remains safe. Speaking of which, Deliana happily takes the roll of paper at her hand and unrolls it. It is a deed granting her control of the twins after House Frey has been mysteriously murdered by a black demon with a fiery sword. The superstitious sheep of Westeros, of course, believes that it is Azrahar Reborn coming from the dead and putting to the sword the inbreeding weasels for their transgression. Another rumor is that the stranger has come, while another tells that it is Targaryens coming back. All of them, however, can attest to one agreement. No one is sad to see that house gone. Now, as to why it is handed to her, it is easy. When Daliana happily slaughters the Argus Filch lookalikes, she also haphazardly throws explosion spells everywhere, half destroying the two castles in the process. She also burns down the giant wooden bridge of House Frey, barely making it passable for the royal procession to pass when they arrived at the ruined Twins. Long story short, the Twins is a ruin now. To repair it would take years upon years, not to mention funds. No one simply wants to invest on it, due to many believing it to be cursed. Thus, after 0 volunteers, Daliana happily nominates herself. Of course, she has to bamboozle Robert with a befuddlement charm to make sure that it goes her way in the unlikely event that Cersei propose herself. Daliana is never one to leave things to chance after all. Thus, after a 5-minute deliberation, a very drunk Robert happily gives her the new deed. Daliana is feeling proud of herself, of course. The new crop of slaves brought from Essos will now have something to go to. This collapse of House Frey also finally puts an end to the last resistance to the rule of her father and brother at their half of the Riverlands. The smaller houses would fall in line with the fall of their greatest benefactor. Daliana, on the other hand, has plans for her own version of the bridge. Already her patroness of a stag is running its way down south to inform Amelia to start sending their workers and builders to the ruined Twins ASAP. Once the royal party heads back down south again, the prowess of Daliana's Builders Guild would surprise them. A screech makes Daliana turn to her bad-tempered Gryphon, whose beak she strokes much to his pleasure. Godric tends to nibble her hair if he feels he's being undervalued. Yes, I know my friend. I can feel them too, says Daliana as she looks forward ahead at the knoll she's standing in. At her back, the royal procession has put up their tents again. Moat Cailin, after all, is the last vestige of the South, and the only place where the rest of the Southerners can gather before they start trekking the winter abode of the North. A long-drawn trumpet call is the signal that first give off the telltale signs that the first of the two that they are waiting have finally arrived. As for Daliana, she wastes no time riding on Godric, who wordlessly takes to the air with powerful flaps of his wings. Up high, indeed, Daliana can finally see the column of light blue standing and shining metal on the distance. The Knights of Dol Amroth have come accompanying their Prince Jon Stark with his lady wife, Ygritte of the North. Riders approaching, the shouts of the king's outriders can be heard as they return back from their posts. Riders bearing the crests of the city of Dol Amroth have come. Another trumpet sound resonates. Gain. This time, however, they come from the direction south. Daliana, for the second time, smiles as she sees the fast column of red and gold approaching fast. Indication of a cavalry. It doesn't take a genius to know who it is that is coming. She urges her Gryphon back down again. She needs to change from her drab outfit to something more presentable for tonight. The players are being set for the game between fate's fingers and nets. Many are arranging themselves for a place on it with intent of winning. Daliana is not, no. She plans to upturn the table and make something new afterwards. Magic, after all, is a rule breaker. It never ever likes to be constrained by rules. Outside Moat Cailin, Jon Stark would be the first to admit that he has changed much ever since he becomes the Prince of Dol Amroth. His new position in life and the responsibility that comes with it demands no less. Plus, there's also the incentive of being not shot in the balls by his new wife. When before all he cares about is gaining a name to be able to get away from the status of being a bastard. Now he is so far away from that it is not even funny. Now he controls what supposes to be the richest city north of the neck with people and soldiers to care for. Sometimes it is hard for Jon to reconcile that his dream future is to be a watchman for the wall. Of course, it is not easy to transition from being a lauded bastard to a powerful lord. His father before lets him sit with Robb in his classes in order for him to learn, to say the least. 60% of what he listens about, he lets slide off his ears. Those part of the lessons, after all, are for the heir, and not the spare. He is more interested on the fighting set of skills he would need. Long story short, he completely regrets it, as he has to recall every scrap of detail he could scrounge in his brain, both in etiquette and in knowledge, as he keeps Dol Amroth running smoothly. The Lady Daliana, after all, is giving him the castle and its porty city at him for free. The only exchange she asks is that he performs his duties well, something that is completely daunting for Jon. Thank the gods for Judith and her no-nonsense attitude. Her stern will and focus is enough to terrorize Jon to pulling himself together, lest he incurs her wrath. Now Jon is a changed man. Gone are the drab and dreary gray and black clothes and tunics he wore, replaced by fine linen and furs of dark blue with bits of gold linings. His curly, wavy hair also has been gorgeously redone and pulled to the back with a braid. The barbers at his castle also frowns at his decision of not letting his beard grow. Now Jon supports a closed shave, one with a slight pointy end. All in all, Jon himself would admit that he looks regal and powerful now. He would bet that he even looks richer compared to many of the Southerners. Visera is also the same as him. Though the Northern does not choose to have her looks changed, she is still as haughty and proud as ever, choosing pants and shirts where she can move nimbly. Though continuous access to products of finery truly does bring out her northern flower beauty. Dol Amroth, despite being so far away from Rivendell, is still a city connected to it, and thus have complete access for the upgraded facilities and new ways of life that the Dame implemented on it. As Diliana aptly always say to those under her, and painted at every wall, as a reminder, I give the best, so I expect the best. Jon is a testament to those words, from bottom-line bastard lifted to be the boss of his own fief. Either way, with his entourage accompanying the royal line, it would be good to see his father and his siblings again at Winterfell. Lannister main camp. Tywin mentally scowls as he surveys the camp. Around him, his personal red cloaks are busy setting up camp via supervising the aides and squires that rode with them. One look at the gathered camp and anyone can easily deduce the difference between which is which of those that follow Deliana's and that of King's retinue. Rivendell is renowned for its control, after all, and discipline. One look at the row upon row of perfectly uniformed setup tents, materials, weapons, horses, and... Tywin blinks, not believing his eyes. He wipes them with his hand, stares, then blinks again. Breathing onto his gloves, he smells them. Yep, no smell of being drunk either, which means that what he's seeing is real and not some sort of drunken premonition. Judging from the gawking faces of his men, it seems that indeed what he's seeing is reality. Magnificent, aren't they? The musical voice of the Lady of Rivendell brings the attention of Tywin away from the giant winged creatures to the speaker, whom Tywin notices is wearing that familiar ornate outfur that the Emperor of Utte has given her during the grand tourney. Lady Deliana, it's a pleasure to see you here, Tywin replies in his rich baritone voice before looking at the giant avian animals again. I believe these are the so-called griffons, then, that my daughter is ranting to me about in her letters. Yes, Lord Tywin, I believe you already know what happened during the trial, that the Queen insisted for our Crown Prince as dust in the wind, my lady. Don't you worry about it, my lady. I will handle my daughter in the meantime. I would like to discuss the future of Westeros with you at a later date, once we have settled down. I do. A most unpleasant business it is, my lady. While I do understand the reasoning behind her actions, I would still not condone it, an idiotic thing to do if you ask me myself. She sends a boy who has more pompous words than actions against what is supposed to be flying, walking, killing machines. She is lucky that her son only gets a scratch for such a stupid attempt. As it is, I lost 10 good loyal men in the process, and tarnished House Lannister's reputation to you, my lady. For that, you have my apologies, and that of my house. Tywin inclines his head at that, for Tywin never bows at anyone. Apology accepted. Lord Tywin, all is gone in the wind, though I must say that the rather descriptive punishment of the Queen about me being sent shipped to Essos via slave ship, Rivendell being handed over to Jaime to be ruled as his fiefdom, and Myrcella being sent back to the capital under her care is null, right, she replies. Coolly! Of course, I will be looking forward to it, Lord Tywin. The Lady of Rivendell nods her head once more to him in respect before walking off. The Lord of Casterly Rock merely watches as the proud woman walks off back to her own section of the camp. She reminds him a bit of Joanna, proud and not bending down, and highly clever too. Though Joanna, of course, is not a genius like the Dane is. Despite himself, Tywin can't help but wonder if she has been born in his time era. She might have attracted his attention. If only I was 30 years younger, Tywin smirks to himself before shaking his head. No, make it 40. Lannister main camp. Cersei walks proudly, despite the mud on her shoes. Around her are the familiar gold and red tents that she has been used to as a girl. Personal guards of her father are here, and around her doing their duties proudly and seriously. Perfect rows of weapons and accessories with every single detail depicting Lannister gold and wealth. Here it displays flat out the true strength and wealth of House Lannister. While father is certainly making himself at home at the middle of this swamp, comments Tyrion at her side, whom is also invited, nearly making Cersei hiss at him, if not for the look that her other brother is giving her, which makes her shut it. If the little troll is also invited, then there must be something important for their father to be summoning all of them. His children at once, reaching the largest tent in the area and the grandest, they nod at the red cloaks, guarding it, who calls out loudly from the outside. It does not take long for the familiar "come in" that makes all three of them immediately stand ramrod straight in attention as they enter inside. As expected, the temporary settlement of the head of House Lannister has all the comforts of home, a retractable folding bed with comfortable furs and pillows on it, a couple of couches that can be easily torn and assembled, heads of game animals, and precious ornamental jars, weapons, cutlery, and golden designs. Their eyes, however, are drawn at the man sitting at the head of the table, drinking wine, his frame tall and strong despite his advanced age. It is one word, but Cersei can feel herself stiffening at the very command. She is a mother and a queen now, but every time she faces her father makes her still feel like a small child, judging by how fast Jaime and Tyrion take to their chairs. They share also the same sentiment as she does. A heavy silence soon falls on the table, and Cersei can feel herself squirming. It is one of her father's classical technique to make whomever he is talking to uncomfortable. We are heading north soon. The sudden start of conversation from their father nearly makes the three of them jump. As Lannisters representing House Lannister, I expect you all to act with propriety and etiquette as your stations demand of you, so that means being courteous to our hosts, the Starks of Winterfell. There would be no pompous declarations, snarky remarks, and, above all, insulting words. I am talking to you, especially Tyrion. The sudden specification makes the smallest of the three stiffen a bit. "Yes, father," her beautiful brother almost salutes like the golden lion knight he is. "You will not give insulting words at our hosts, no matter how much they might insult you by calling you Kingslayer in your face. It is no great secret that the Lord Stark despises you for murdering our previous king, as mad as he is. While laughable his honor is, we will respect it under his roof. If any of his children ask for lessons, you will give it to them. While we are up north, you would visit no whorehouse and would present yourself in an acceptable manner worthy as a son of House Lannister. That means no drinking and no ugly sarcastic remarks. Jaime, but willingly, you will present yourself as the perfect knight worthy of that cloak which you are exchanging for your birthright," he finishes in disgust. "Now all of you, out, except you Cersei." Without nary a word, her two siblings scurries out, though Jaime gives her a concerned look, before also disappearing, leaving Cersei with their father, who is now giving her his full attention. "I assume that you would want to talk about the incident with Joffrey, father." "Yes," is his curt response, taking a draught from his wine cup. "Isn't your grandson great, father? He has challenged the mighty beasts of Rivendell with nary a scratch on his arm. He is an idiot and a fool, and so are you." The sudden rebuke strikes Cersei mute as she stares dumbfounded at the old lion. "Father, what are you? Your stupidity and that of your spawn have nearly cost us the future of our house. Then you send me an ill-gotten letter that even drives the wedge between us and the Lady of Rivendell, when I am doing my utmost to strengthen our relationship with them, short of a marriage contract." Cersei snorts at her father's words. "And what would we need of the bastard? Sure, she's rich, but she's a bastard. Nevertheless, and we all know that associating with such creatures always bring ill. We could lose a penny or two if relations break down. No big deal." Cersei shrugs at that, sniffing with her nose high in the air. "I don't know, father. Isn't it the mine's auditor's work to count the current bags?" "No big deal." Cersei blinks as her father looks like he is about to blow a gasket. "Tell me, Cersei, how much do you know about this current estimates of our gold mines this year alone?" "Just humor me, Cersei." An eyebrow raising is the answer she gets from her words. "A quite estimate if it is 10 years ago, but right now, nothing." The sudden shout nearly throws Cersei off her chair. "Fine, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000 sacks of raw gold?" "What? Exactly as I said, it's Cersei. All the mines of Casterly Rock are dry and empty. It has taken all my cunning and skill to prevent word of that from getting out. As it is, the current source of income of our house is us piggybacking through the greatest trades and investments of Rivendell. It is the only way to maintain our way of life. That is why I am making sure that our relations with them remain strong. Cersei can't help but scoff at her father's words. Surely it's not that bad, father. Once we manage to royally put the decree of punishing the bastard woman from her attempted murder of my son, we can surely seize her assets and all that we would need to keep our house back on track to its proper glory. For some reason, Cersei does not understand truly why her father is staring at her as if she has lost her mind. The North, a couple years prior. Somewhere in Rivendell, a certain beautiful princess sneezes. She's got a feeling that the future of House Lannister in Rivendell resides on her shoulders. Ned observes with satisfaction as his son Bran does not flinch at the beheading of the deserter from the Night's Watch. He is glad that true Stark blood flows on him. Not so many houses are as lucky as to have heirs that inherit the bravery and courage of their ancestors, handing off ice to the Eon, who wipes the blood off of the blade by a torn piece of clothing from the man's shirt. Ned pats his eldest as he prepares to hop atop his horse. Ned's small party does not have to search far before they find their quarry. They've barely made it to the edge of the wolves before they see the source of the painful keening. What they see, however, is enough to make Ned raise ice in alarm, and for good reason. The North as a whole is a wild and untamed land. Its giant forests and wide open hills and mountains contain secrets and hidden mysteries that not even the great winter kings of the North know about. It is widely untapped and unexplored. Many a Stark, since the time of the Long Kings of Winter, have made mention on their logs that not even they know the full truths about the land they rule. From Shadowcats on the hills to narwhals on the seas, many strange and dangerous creatures dwell on the North. He is stopped, however, by the sound of a painful keening coming directly from the woods that echo loud and clear. Not far from them. With a wordless agreement on his sons and ward, Ned grabs ice from Theon before heading towards the woods, with his children following closely behind him, drawing their own weapons. If some poor animal is injured, the best that they can do at least is to put it out of misery. That is why Ned is totally not surprised at the sight of a giant animal with wide wings having a bird of an eagle and the body of a lion at the open clearing. No, what's surprising, however, is the fact that it is holding the dead body of a dead stag on its hindquarters, while its front paw has grabbed the head of a direwolf and has it pinned down on the snow. The direwolf is obviously, however, badly wounded. A stab wound, courtesy of the stag, is at its chest. The wound, however, is not fatal looking. One beady eye of yellow from the unknown creature pins Ned and his retinue, making the Lord Stark flinch at the bad-tempered-looking animal, who screeches loud and angry at their direction. Behind him he can feel his children and his ward trembling on their boots as they face the unknown creature. With one more angry sound of displeasure, the creature opens its wide wings and takes to the air with powerful beats of it, bringing the corpse of the stag with it. In the matter of seconds, it is gone on the clouds. Ned just stares at the clearing where the wounded wolf lies, panting on its side, breathing heavily. Immediately from out of the snow burst 6 puppies of varying colors, with one being pure white, heading yipping their way to their badly wounded mother. Now Ned is not the most religious of folk, but it takes only a moron or an unbeliever here at the North not to recognize the sign from the old gods, specifically since it is the sigil of his house facing him. 5 puppies for the Stark children and 1 for the bastard. 1 wolf for he who is responsible for taking care of them. The gods have truly blessed you, Lord Stark, comments Theon, apparently reaching the same conclusion as he does. I know, Theon, I know. Boys, come and help me make something that could carry her to Winterfell. Ned orders to his sons. While he is indeed elated that this is the sign of the gods, Ned can't help but worry. If the gods are getting active, either it's because they are pleased with him, or it is a prelude to something ominous enough that they are trying to warn him. The fact that the mother direwolf is wounded by a stag of all things greatly troubles Ned. It is, after all, the sigil of his best friend's house is trouble brewing down south. And what does that have to do with the giant flying thing taking the corpse of the stag and pinning down the wolf? He really needs to talk about Hal and Reed about this. Reading the signs of the gods isn't covered by lordly education, after all.
Present-day Winterfell.
They are coming! They are coming! The sound from the watchmen at the walls signify the long-awaited procession that fills Ned with both trepidation and excitement. Trepidation due to the warnings issued by Howland at the Sign 2 years ago, and the ominous letter from Lysa Arryn about the Lannisters murdering Jon Arryn, and excitement at seeing his secret sister's son again. Suffice it to say that Ned hasn't been idle ever since the gods sent their sign via animals 2 years past, while his children are distracted at the idea of being able to take care symbols of their house, and his wife is trying to adjust to the idea that a now giant direwolf would be sharing their personal chambers. Ned has ridden down to the neck with Roderick Castle and a few guards searching for the elusive Reedman. It takes them 3 falls on the bogs and nearly getting eaten by a lion lizard before they are found by the Crannogmen and brought to their lord, his friend. Suffice it to say, their discussion gives Ned a lot of worry. He can still recall it till now. Their talk, that is. So you believe that it is an omen? Ned asks his old-time friend inside the floating keep of the Crannogmen. He still can't fathom how in the world are they able to light a fire inside the wooden keep without it burning down. I don't just believe it, Ned. I know it is, replies Howland Reed sagely. The gods have been ever moving these past few years, much more than they have ever been. Something great and terrible is about to happen. Keep you enemies close, and your friends much closer, Ned. I can't interpret what you have seen, but all I can say, that shadows now lurk at the edge of your house. Be wary always and trust only those whom you really believe you can trust fully. So what do you think I should do about this? Howland, you can't just tell me that and expect me to do nothing. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I'm telling you to be vigilant. Fate is now moving its fingers and events are now at the hands of the gods. They have spoken and now we must dance at their words. Again, my friend, be vigilant. Something tells me that the time of ending is coming sooner than we expect, and the great battle of the dawn will come. Ned shakes his head at that. He still can't take the image of the stag wounding the dire wolf off his head, and probably would have killed it if not for that mighty beast interfering and preying on the stag. Of course, said wolf is now hale and healthy. He has named it Leah after his deceased sister, and it is now his faithful companion. Frankly, in Ned's opinion, it is so much easier holding court with a giant big dire wolf at his side. Any onlookers are more direct to the point, and those with shady intentions tend to think twice. Loea, for some reason, reacts to Ned's mood. More than once, she has growled angrily, ready to pounce at a random minor lord with dubious intentions. They are coming. They are almost here. A rider appears, bearing his sigil reports, riding at the courtyard. Ned just nods at the man, gesturing him to the side before checking on his own family. Advance warning of the king's coming makes them present for the arrival of the royal entourage. All of them are at their best, from outerwear to furs and looks. Only Arya is different, as she is still wearing a stolen guard's helmet, which Catelyn annoyingly takes away with a scolding much to the amusement of the onlookers. It is the drums that first signifies the arrival of the Southerners. It's starting. It's starting. Many Northerners strain to see the over-the-gathered throng of people. It is weird to see Northerners so excited about the arrival of unknown people. The name of Diliana, however, is well known to them and deeply loved, seeing that she's the reason that the woes of many are lightened a lot. Gasps of awe and wonder sounds out as the first group comes in. Dressed in silver armor with dark blue undershirts, they are bright and austere in color. Every inch of them scream noble from head to toe. Beautiful metal helmets, freshly polished, cover their heads, all engraved in the image of wings being spread open. Astride their beautiful white and gray horses is the same symbol, a pure white winged swan taking flight over a field of blue, the official symbol of the port city of Dol Amroth. Check the tower guards of Gondor as an inspiration, only that their cape and underclothes are dark blue. Proudly unfurled in front is a banner that is raised displaying the same swan symbol, however, with a tower behind it. Everything about the fabric is richly ornamented and stitched. Above and below the banner is a phrase, "The tower guard never sleeps while the sea lives." At their head is a tall-looking man with resplendent cape and ornate jeweled armor with gems on it. He is sporting a perfect beard with a fine goatee. At his side is a red head with a stern face and perfectly lined cheekbones. She is slim and beautiful, like a newly furbished dagger. It takes Ned a minute to find out the reason why the latter looks incredibly familiar before his jaw fell open as he realizes that it is his bastard son, come home. Judging from the expressions of unbelief from the rest of his family, they have also reached the same conclusion as he does. Robb and his children looks like they need to have their eyes checked, while his lady wife looks like she is about to suffer from an aneurysm. Gone is the old John, with that usual insecurity look on his face, replaced by this resplendent figure of pride and strength. Following the resplendent knights of Dol Amroth are the now familiar but no less awesome knights of the Order of the Silver Wings. Like the knights of Dol Amroth, they wear the same silver-tinted armor, only more ornate, but with medals and attached purity seals on them. At their backs clipped are the famous wings of the knights that makes them stand out to any knight order in Westeros. What the difference, however, between the Knights of Dol Amroth and the Knights of the Silver Aura is their bearing. The Knights of Dol Amroth are the perfection of what proud knights should be. The Knights of the Silver Order, however, scream glory and power at every inch, every move. Every drift of the eye gives credence to their skill and infamous prowess that earns them the moniker, the Winged Angels of Vengeance. They basically stabilized Westeros single-handedly during the after effects of the War of the Faith. Next to them are the familiar armor of the Blackguard lines, which the Northerners know. The highly disciplined foot soldiers of Rivendell are infamous due to their skill and tenacity during the War of the Faith. Highly disciplined, their black leather-clad forms do not miss a step as they march past the onlookers and observers. Professional to the bone, all of them are. Following the Blackguard are the ever-mysterious Death Dealers. Very few is known about the bodyguards of the Dame of Rivendell. Dressed all in black, ornate armor with black horse plumes, they are not disciplined like the Blackguard or the Tower Guard of Dol Amroth. And they do not possess the dignity and regality of the warrior kings of the Silver Wings Knights. Instead, they are carefree and seems even lax. All in all, not impressive to look at. If one would look closer, however, they would notice that no Death Dealer has the same weapon. All are different from one another, ranging from knives to spears and axes. Finally, behind the Death Dealers are the red cloaks of House Lannister. Immediately all cheering died down, and Ned can't blame them. House Lannister specifically represents, after all the things that Northerners hate on Southerners, rich, pompous, arrogant, and overbearing, seeing the judgmental stares the Red Cloaks are giving his people. Ned might say that they have good cause and reason to not like them. With the Red Cloaks appear the ever-infamous Tywin Lannister, bald head shining. Ned can't help but mentally gulp at the Lannister Lord. He might not like the man, but Ned can respect the power wielded by the Lannister Lord. Cruel, manipulative, callous, cunning, and pragmatic. One would be wise on dealing with the Old Lion. For the life of him, though, he has no idea why the Old Lion is with the King's entourage. Be wary, the familiar voice of Howland echoes on his ears, making Ned stern his resolve. He would be wary of the Lannisters, especially with the warning and accusation of Lysa on the death of Jon Arryn. Next, following the Red Lion's footsteps, are familiar gray-cloaked guards of House Baratheon, and with them, the familiar gold armor of the Kingsguard, with their resplendent white cloaks. Ned recognizes the familiar faces of Sir Barristan, and unfortunately, the smug one of the Kingslayer too. Behind them is a massive, rickety-sounding wheelhouse designed to the brim with red and gold. It doesn't take a genius to who it belongs to. Following the wheelhouse is, of course, no one else but his best friend. Ned booms Robert happily the moment he lays eyes on him. Suffice it to say that Ned Stark is both glad and sad at the moment that he lays eyes on his best friend. Glad that his friend seems to retain his jolly character still, and sad at what he has, suffice it to say, hasn't suited Robert one bit. Ned has seen him before during the Greyjoy Rebellion, and he has marveled at the fat that Robert has gained. Now it seems that fat has doubled with his friend, now supporting a double chin that he is hiding beneath his gruffy beard. He winces as he watches his father being helped, of all things, by a squire via a stool, dismounting his horse. Where is the Robert that could throw himself atop a battle horse while holding his warhammer one-handed and charging without hesitation at the enemy? As it is propriety, however. First, Ned falls to his knees at the king's approach. Welcome to the North, your grace. Winterfell is yours. Ned proclaims loudly, as everyone in the courtyard also falls to their knees. Get your sorry lard up, Ned. What the hell are you calling me your grace about? It's me. It's Robert, okay? Always Robert for you, booms the king pulling, or manhandling Ned up to his feet. Your grace, Ned insists. That's Robert, damn you! Enough of this your grace shit. Speaking of which, he glances up and down at Ned. You have gotten fat. It's like a silence descends on the courtyard as Ned's eyebrows shot up to his hairline, before pensively going down to stare at Robert's jutting belly. It is followed by the king laughing loudly at his own joke, before patting him on the arm. Stop being so damn serious, Ned. By the gods, it is good to see you. Come, let me introduce you to my family, he ushers Ned to where the rest of Robert's royal retinue is waiting. Of course you already know my wife, Cersei, the queen sniffs as Ned kisses her hand. And you've also met my boys, Joffrey and Tommen. Ned nods at the lanky-haired youths who is shivering under the cold of the north. He admits, though, that the two doesn't look at all like Robert, but Ned shakes it off. He isn't an expert at identifying similarities about heirs. And of course, Robert continues only to be cut off as the tallest Lannister steps forward, nearly barreling the king aside. It is a pleasure to meet you face to face again, Lord Stark, the ritually cultured voice of Tywin Lannister sounds out, shaking the hands of Ned firmly. Despite himself, Ned can't help but take a step back. That feeling that Tywin is bringing with him, where the term Lord is taken up to the highest level, is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. This man is dangerous to the extreme. Likewise, Lord Tywin, welcome to Winterfell, Ned responds with a gulp before remembering his manners. These are my family. He gestures to the awaiting line. My companion, Lya, he points at the giant direwolf lying on its haunches. It pokes one great eye open at the mention of its name, much to the awe of the onlookers at the existence of such a unique beast. Seeing nothing of intent, however, it closes it again. My oldest son, Robb, he points to his oldest son, much to the delight of Robert at his namesake. My second daughter, Sansa. Well, she's a beauty, isn't she? Comments Tywin, much to the beaming of Ned's daughter. My son, Bran, her sister Arya, and of course, Rickon. Ned introduces to the royal group. You already know my wife Catelyn, of course. He finishes, his wife curtsying like the proud lady she is. Of course, Robert this time steps forward. Come, Ned, bring me to the crypts. I would like to pay my respects. This time Ned can't help but notice the sudden souring of the queen's face. And for good reason, Ned knows that even he would not appreciate it if his own wife seeks another man. Other than him, after all. My love, we've come a long journey. Let us rest inside first, Cersei croons, though Robert only scowls. Ned! Now! He barks out a command, making Ned sigh as he gestures for the king to follow him and with a wordless nod at his wife to take care of the accommodations of the royal family. He also nods at Jon, who returns the gesture. He would need to talk to his secret nephew later once this business with Robert is done. Just as everyone is about to go their own separate ways, Ned, however, notices something or rather someone amiss. Your Majesty, I've been expecting your whole family. Where is your eldest? The Princess Marcella, he asks. Fuck with this Your Majesty bullshit, Ned. Might I remind you, as for my wayward daughter, he chuckles proudly. Ned notices. She's with her teacher, of course. And I guess they ran a little late. They've been needing to feed their special mounts after all. Special mounts? Ned blinks in confusion. Yep, and a loud screech followed by another and another rent the open air, nearly making every man in Winterfell clutch their ears in pain. Yep, that's them, my beautiful daughter. And, of course, our proud dame of Westeros, laughs Robert. Something seems to block out the gleaming color of the morning sun, and Ned can feel his brain short-circuiting as a very familiar creature once more makes itself present in his eyes. Powerful wings, beautiful plumage, sharp claws, powerful muscles, eagle-like head with fur and feathers of red, brown, and gold appears out of the clouds, and landing majestically on the courtyard of Winterfell, throwing the stable hands off their feet. 3 more with different color schemes land behind it, all looking as proud and prideful as the first one. It is, however, the riders at the backs of such new-looking animals that catches everyone's attention. Throwing herself off as nimble as a dancer, wearing a backless red dress with a golden eagle design at her right breast. Her black hair let loose and with a slit on her right leg going up her upper thigh is the very familiar face of the Lady of Rivendell. Queen Medusa, second outfit at the Battle Through Heavens inspired. Behind her coming down their own mounts are also the Princess Marcella in a forest green outfit with a leather hunting cuirass, her golden hair free, a young woman with Dornish features with 2 swords at her back, in a block bodysuit, and one more person wearing the familiar blackguard outfit, his face fully covered. It is at Princess Marcella and the Lady Deliana, however, that Ned blinks. The last time Ned sees them, they are still young looking. Now, however, the both of them looks like they are at the cusp of adulthood and very mature looking and bearing. Ned knows that Robb doesn't look the least as mature as them, even though he's only a year older, going 18. Deliana apparently now sure that her companions are dismounted whistles at the giant animals whose screeches, rubbing its head at her palms before taking off again of the courtyard with its companions into open air. As for Ned, he stands there stunned as the Lady of Rivendell, the current closest ally of the North March, towards him and giving him a nod of her head, not a curtsy, he notices. "Lord Stark, it is a pleasure to be here at Winterfell. I do so expect your courtesy," she declares loudly before walking off with Marcella and her entourage in tow. Ned doesn't need to hear the inflamed sniff of his wife to know that the Lady of Rivendell has broken at least a dozen propriety rules at that. In a way, it is refreshing. Deliana Tully, after all, is well known for kicking the rules of Westeros down and would happily jump and down on their ashes.
The Crypts of Winterfell.
For 1,000 years, the Crypts of Winterfell has played host to a plethora of dead Starks. It is here that the ancient kings of old are interred alongside with many of their relatives. It goes so deep that the current Starks do not truly know how deep the catacombs go. Very few outsiders have been permitted to enter the crypts, and fewer have gone more than a few levels. Those that do, however, are considered as the greatest of friends of a current Lord Stark. "It does not look like her at all," Robert wistfully muses, and Ned bows his head at the emotion in Robert's tone. Say what you will about Robert, but he truly does love his sister. Robert in their younger days is carefree, wild, and powerful, with a heavy burden on his shoulders. Ned suspects that Lyanna is Robert's anchor, the one he expects that would change him and convince him fully to turn to the right path. Alas, it is a great what-if in all of their lives. "She should be somewhere down south with me, where flowers grow and beautiful grasses where she can dance with the sun," he sniffs sadly. "Her place is here with her family, Robert," responds Ned, their old argument for 1,000th time coming up when it is decided where Lyanna should lie. "I know that, damn it!" He stomps his foot angrily. "I still dream of bashing that bastard's chest. You know, many nights I can recall the smash of my hammer in his chest, the rubies on it flying in all directions. I can hear his chest cracking like an egg over the force wiping that smug grin off his face as he spouts Targaryen madness about some sort of prophecy. Inbred fuckers. The lot of them are Ned. 1,000 deaths is not enough for what he does to my Lyanna." "You did not bring me here to reminisce about the death of Rhaegal. Simply did you, Robert?" asks Ned, making Robert snort. "Cold and straight to the point as usual. Ned, you are always a bore, but that's why I keep you around. To keep my idiotic ass in line back when we're younger." "For the record, Robert, you do need to be kept in line," Ned replies, recalling the shenanigans that Robert goes up into and with Ned being dragged along. "You are right on that, as usual, you frigid Northerner. Alas, Ned, I need you to keep me in line again. This death of Jon, well, long story short, Ned has gone tits up. I need a new hand of the king, and I would have you take the office," sighs Robert unhappily. "Gods know you'll hate it, but you'll do it. I know you will." Ned Stark only blinks. Well, this is something that he has been expecting since the letter arrived from King's Landing about Robert's arrival. It still feels a little bit surreal happening right now. The position of being Hand of the King means basically that he is the second most powerful man in Westeros with opportunities and freedom throughout the Seven Kingdoms and beyond. For a Northern Lord who doesn't even get remembered down south, it is a great thing. "You honor me with your words, your majesty. I will serve to the best of my ability," Ned responds with a bow and his knees again. Robert only laughs at his words. bodily pulling him up to his feet. I am not trying to honor you, damn it. I am trying to get you to rule my kingdom, while I whore and drink myself to an early grave. This damned kingship position is supposed to be yours, Ned, and we are destined to rule together, but alas, you have to crawl your butt off here, back at Winterfell. This should always be a Stark at Winterfell. Robert, replies Ned. I know, you Northerners and your strange traditions, but that's why I love you all. Anyway, this is the closest that I can get you to the damned crown position. Also, it would put you in a favorable setting for the betrothal that I am offering you. Also, betrothal, Robert? Yes, nods the fat man, his jowls going with it. You and I, the two of us, have always been destined as brothers. I am supposed to marry Lyanna after all. Now I have a son, and you have a daughter. His age, it is the perfect timing for us to bind our two houses together. Ned partly grimaces at that. The reports of some of the merchants of Rivendell that travels up north about the Crown Prince is highly questionable. Something about sadistic, lack of morals, and a reincarnation for the Mad King. While he usually would not pay attention to such rumors, it is highly idiotic for him not to sniff a bit before making a decision. A betrothal, after all, with the royal family is the best kind of opportunity that his eldest daughter would get. He winces again at the Southern Way style that Catelyn educated their eldest daughter with. Yep, Sansa is destined to the South, period. I would need to have a talk with my wife about this, Robert. At least give me some time, replies Ned. I understand, Ned. I do expect, however, that you would be able to make a decision at least before we leave for King's Landing. I, however, have another reason that I brought you down here, where no one can hear us at least. The sudden change of Robert's mood from jovial to complete seriousness catches Ned's full attention. The last time he has seen Robert being this serious and sneaky, they are planning a way to rebel against the Mad King and overthrow the Targaryen dynasty. In a way, right now, Ned would rather prefer Happy Jolly Robert than Serious Robert. At least Happy Jolly Robert doesn't make him feel like there's an impending doom coming, like a ship straight to his face. Yes, this is a secret that I would fully trust on you, Ned. He takes a deep breath as if he's about to dive into the water. It is about who would inherit my crown once I finally drink myself to death. Majority of the lords and ladies expect that it would be Joffrey. I might have agreed with them if I know how badly the crown would sit on my son's head. That boy is not ready for it in any way. Damned mother of his spoiled him rotten, he grumbles. Robert, don't tell me that you're going to name Tommen as your heir. That would set a bad precedent on everyone. The crown prince being usurped by the spare, exclaims Ned, flabbergasted. His reply actually surprises Robert, who blinks at his words. What? No, of course not. While I would agree that Tommen would actually be a good and gentle king compared to his brother, he is too timid and too kind. The court fuckers would rip him apart and spew his carcass out in 7 different ways. But if it is not Joffrey or Tommen you are planning on naming, then Ned pauses as his brain finally connects the dots of what Robert is trying to say. Robert, you can't do it. No, Westeros never has a female ruler before. Ned exclaims heatedly for the second time. Last time a female ruler tried to bid for the throne, it resulted to the Dance of Dragons, which I might say destroyed House Targaryen in the long run. You don't think I don't know that, grumbles Robert, unhappily kicking a nearby stone in frustration. However, she is the only logical choice for this kingdom. She is well-trained and knowledgeable of the politics in Westeros. She has also proven her mettle in battle and is very strong-willed. He smirks at that. She is a Baratheon through and through. Change her hair color from blonde to stark black or brown, and one might say that she could have been the child of Lyanna and me. Don't joke about that, Robert. Here of all places, Ned rumbles in warning. I know. Sorry about that, Ned. Either way, she's got strong support already. The Lady of Rivendell, with all its resources, I know would support her in a heartbeat. I've seen the closeness between Deliana Tully and my daughter. If not for the fact that they are both women, then I might have suspected that they have been fucking one another. He chuckles before regaining his composure. I know where Deliana goes, the rest of Riverrun will follow. The same goes with the Westerlands. As much as I don't like the old lion prick, he is necessary to keep my wife in line. He is also practical and would see the reasoning that I am making. I also have been getting back in touch with many of the houses of the Stormlands and reassuring their loyalty to my house. When the time comes, I hope at least that my daughter would have 3-4 kingdoms That is, if the North supports my decision. Also, that would back her as High Queen. Ned only sighs. As insane as Robert's idea is right now, he already knows that he will follow him, for he is his king, and already has sworn his oath on him. If Robert thus decides on this path, still though, many houses would not like this decision of yours, Robert. It is not very traditional, and you would be dealing with internal strife on your family. Points out Ned. Leave my family to me, Robert waves off. I am their father and their king, and they will suck it up either they like it or not. As for the rest, they traditional my ass. If we retain that thinking, then the damn Targas would still be ruling over us. I have seen these past few years that traditional doesn't mean always right. We have smashed the damn dragons, didn't we? And we didn't use anything but sweat, blood, muscle, and steel to do it too. An entire dynasty toppling down. The bastard Tully proves it too challenging. The centuries-old grip of the faith of the Seven back south. Now I see bastards worshipping damn trees every now and then like you Northerners do. Tradition doesn't mean always right. So, I'm asking you, Ned, are you with me on this? Ned only sighs, rubbing the back of his head. He already knows his answer before he says it. Of course, Robert. I am with you, like always. Somehow he can't erase from his mind the image of the stag almost goring the direwolf on the throat by its antlers. Winter fell. Tywin waits patiently as he sits on his current temporary office. Unlike the rest of the sheep down south, he does appreciate the practicality of the North. In a frigid place like these, the Northmen have not only survived, but thrived. Every action of theirs bred to survival, and that fortunately makes them a bit more intelligent than the local random Southerner, which in Tywin's opinion have shits for brains. Winterfell is simple, large, and impregnable. Easy to maintain, easy to repair, and easy to take shelter to. In frequent winters, its simplistic design and structure would be a hard thing to crack, if not impossible. The kings of winter and the Stark lords are wise to adapt this lifestyle, instead that of the Southerners. Practicability and simplicity is an easy thing to choose, when very little people do try and visit Warkeep. It also lessens expenses for the house and conserves money for more important stuff. As it is, though, the usual drab guest room has been redecorated in every inch by the servants of Tywin. He might appreciate the simplicity of the Northerners, but he is a Lannister, and that name is parallel to gold. He has declined the invitation to stay on the royal rooms and chooses a separate one for himself alone. This gives him the privacy and the protection from poking eyes. As it is, the room are now sporting red curtains, lion banners, beautiful oak desks, comfy chairs, and armchairs with cushions, the straw bed kicked out and replaced with a feathered one. All in all, a standard Lannister room with all its luxuries. Tonight, however, there is a very good reason that Tywin has personally requested a personal separate room. Sensitive subjects will be talked about tonight, and he won't have prying ears on them. A knock on his door makes Tywin look up from the oaken desk that he is sitting in. The Princess Myrcella Lord Tywin calls out his guard from outside. Let her in. With a wordless nod of acknowledgement, the guard opens the door wider, presenting what perhaps is the most successful out of all the royal children. He raises an eyebrow at her attire. Instead of a dress, she is wearing a red, form-fitting bodysuit that eerily looks a lot like the one that her mentor wears. Her hair is in a ponytail, and she completely excludes confidence in every pore. Tywin approves at her non-terrified approach as she sits across him from his desk. I know you would go with the intimidation tactic by letting me wait as you do some nonsensical things. Grandfather, but let us cut to the chase, shall we? Her sudden declaration makes the eyebrows of the old lion shoot to his hairline. You have learned some bad manners from your teacher, granddaughter. Patience is always a trait required from every lord or lady, he responds coolly. I know the value of patience, grandfather. I also know, however, the value of time. Each has a proper place to be used, and unfortunately, you sitting there while I squirm here under your gaze is what I would say. Wasting my time, she replies. Tywin almost barks in laughter at that. Fiery indeed. Very good in his opinion. I summoned you here to discuss the contents of your letter, he finally cuts to the chase, taking a letter from his desk. I do not know whether I should call you an idiot right this very second or not. However, I deduce that you would not be so stupid as to let yourself be influenced by emotions without reason. So I am giving you the chance today to explain why you want my support on a betrothal with your teacher and break taboos that would turn the faith against us. Easy, grandfather. As you already know, I am in charge of many of Rivendell's affairs. My teacher gives me enough freedom that I might peek here and there. I know about the current state of our house. Unless we find some source of major income soon, we would be unable to lead the lifestyle that we are used to. As it is, House Lannister is leaning heavily currently on the businesses of Rivendell, so that we won't be forced to reach into our own storages. Knowing you, grandfather, you have been racking your brains as to how to formally tie the Lady of Rivendell to us and cement the alliance. The easiest way, of course, is marriage. And why do you think I haven't done that yet, granddaughter? Asks Tywin. The Lady Deliana improved her station in life by gathering riches and winning wars faster than anyone in Westeros history has ever won. Her successes and inventions are so many and different that it can almost be labeled as miracles. In her current status in life, anything less than a royal wedding would be an insult to her. Your brother Joffrey can easily fulfill that role other than you, points out Tywin. Maybe, but Joffrey is the crown prince of Westeros. He needs to marry to the great houses as is expected of him, especially once he becomes king. He needs to fully cement the loyalty of one of the kingdoms. Also, let's face it, grandfather, you can see what I see. Joffrey is as unreliant as wet paper. Diliana Tully would never accept him, and same goes with Tommen. At best, she would hate us for forcing her on it. What happens then to the trade deals and negotiations? Unlike me, however, Diliana cares for me. She, after all, practically raised me. She is unorthodox and could give a rat's ass about the opinions of others. If she says yes to the betrothal, it would cement the partnership within our house and thus our future. What about the repercussions of such a decision? The lords and ladies of the realm would never accept this. They would be laughing and mocking your name at every moment, Tywin drawls as he leans back at his chair. Marcella only laughs at his response. As you so aptly state, grandfather. Lions don't care about the opinions of the sheep. Let them laugh about my choice of betrothal. I would be living under the care of one of the most powerful people in Westeros, and the richest. Let us see who would have the last laugh at the end of the day. Winterfell, main hall. The main hall of Winterfell is full of tables and chairs. Servants rush about, preparing for the dinner feast for the king. The best of Winterfell larder is being broken out to be used for the feast. Deliana, however, stands at the end of the hall watching the commotion alone. Technically not alone, since two hidden ones are perched on the wooden beam above the hall's shadow. She is basically here to remind herself how different the world she is in right now. Rivendell has a lot of comfort that almost makes her forget her reality. It is times like this one that grounds her to the reality. I never liked you. A female voice at her side makes Deliana Tully turn towards the source. She is surprised to see Catelyn there, standing beside her with a pinched expression. Lady Stark, or should I say Sister Deliana, replies, making the older woman hiss. You never call me that ever. You are an abomination, a mistake my father has made in his late years. He should have drowned you at birth, she curses under her breath, that only Deliana can hear. Yet here you stand, she sourly replies. Know this, bastard. The others might be blind to what you are, but I am not. I know what you really are. The gods have decreed that you are cursed since the moment you are born. One way or another, disaster will overtake you, and you will not usurp my family name. Mine, my father's, or my brother's. Really? Cursed am I? I might say that it's the other way around. In less than a decade, I created a kingdom within a kingdom, became the first female knight in history, won a war against two great houses, became the first rider of a Gryphon, became the richest person on Westeros, and one of the most influential people in the world. Diliana pauses before smiling evilly at the now turning cherry red woman. What about you, sister? What have you done that would justify you looking down on me? Breed 5 children like all those good ladies of the past? Good for you. And just like the other women, you will be forgotten in time. 100 years from now, overshadowed by your husband's and son's exploits. No one will remember you existed, but I, on the other hand, will be remembered forever. When the name Tully would be spoken, they would not be talking about our father, our brother, and especially not you. No, they would be talking about me, the miracle child who turned the world upside down wherever she goes. With that finishing note, Diliana turns around, ignoring the angry-looking fish behind her. She has better plans than to spend her time arguing with a flopping fish on the ground. Winterfell Main Hall The usually drab main hall of Winterfell are packed to the brim and as aesthetically designed as the North in its practical attitude can ever be. Laurels and blue roses adorn the walls and doors, while animal heads that served as trophies for many a Lord Stark has been pulled out of storage to be displayed. The usual long table of Winterfell has been added a few ones to accommodate the extra guests. Of course, at the middle and the most prominent is Robert laughing raucously, his whoring attitude not the least lessened in the presence of his new hand and best friend who looks disapprovingly as Robert grabs the arse of any wench he can reach. Beside Robert, of course, is Ned with Cat and the rest of his children. On his other side is Tywin, who looks more akin to a statue, eating with how much he ignores the king's insult to his family by grabbing wenches in the presence of his queen. Cersei is next to Tywin talking to Jaime while Joffrey is catapulting spoonfuls of porridge at his younger brother. Below the high table are, of course, the common ones. Normally, it would be filled with lords and servants of the North who are usually present at Winterfell during meal times. Right now, however, it is filled with Southerners from the king's royal entourage, with only the basic Winterfell guard present. Not many of the Northerners, after all, appreciate the presence of so many from the South littering, even if it is jolly old King Robert. Surprisingly, however, Lyanna Tully and the rest of her retinue chose to sit down with the rest of the commoners, and not with the royals and lords. To the even greater surprise of all, the Princess Marcella also chose to sit there alongside her laughing and carousing with the rest. As for Tywin Lannister, the old lion simply watches in a critical look the Lady of Rivendell. The words of the Princess Marcella are bouncing inside his head. Personally, Tywin would never risk such a daring stunt as such that his granddaughter wants to attempt. It would, after all, bring shame to House Lannister and drag it to the much. However, the benefits of such a stunt are so great and it after all resolves the dire issues that are currently plaguing his house. This would tie the two houses together, and if done correctly, could be the new financial source and power for generations to come. However, while Lyanna Tully could be the solution to the financial crisis that would be hitting House Lannister like a battering ram in the face, Tywin Lannister can't help but worry. The Tully bastard is in every essence a maverick of the highest order and a great catalyst of change. Tywin cannot control her even if he wants to, and that puts a bad taste in his mouth. The old lion, after all, excels the most in getting things moving in the background, where he can make the greatest impacts without the criticizing eye of the public. What to do indeed. Winterfell outside the main hall, the stables. The cold air of the North kisses Jon's face. It feels almost surreal for him to be standing here once again. He can recall more times than he can count doing fecal duty, since it is the only place for bastards, according to the bitch wife of his father. It is also the only place where he can think and plan for his future. Back then, it is the future with the Black Brothers of the Watch. Now, here he is, a lord and a prince in his own right. Jon, a very familiar voice, calls his name, and Jon turns to see his brother Robb with the rest of his siblings, and Theon coming out also. Robb, everyone, Jon breathes out. Prince of Dol Amroth or not, Jon would always consider his siblings family. No money in the world can change that. It is as if a dam has broken. Immediately Bran, Rickon, and Arya bullets towards him, hugging his center fiercely. Jon only laughs as he returns their embrace. He would never exchange his time with Ygritte, but he can admit that he misses these kind of hugs from his younger siblings. Well, except Sansa, maybe. That girl is a mini Catelyn after all. You never visited us, you barely write, pouts Arya, making Jon laugh as he ruffles her head. I'm quite busy, you know. I have a wife now of my own, Arya, an aunt for you. You will love her, I promise. Did you bring any gifts for us? Asks a beaming Bran at him. Of course I do. Can't just visit here without bringing something for you lot, he replies, now disengaging from the hue with Rickon letting go the last. Now that the reunion between his younger siblings and him are over, Jon turns to his older brother, who smirks with an arm outstretched that Jon takes firmly. It is good to see you, Stark. Aye, and same to you, Snow? Responds Robb. The two of them remains that way, staring at each other seriously before the two of them can no longer hold it. With a burst of laughter, all sorts of formality disappears as they embrace one another. It is good to see you again, Robb, exclaims Jon happily. Yes, yes. And so to you too, Jon, replies the oldest Stark, before stepping back looking at Jon up and down. Hey, and look at you, all rich and pompous. It seems that your lady love is treating you right. Jon only mocks, scowls at his brother. During the early days of his marriage, he has sent letter after letter to Robb asking him for help due to the breaking in that Yrita is doing to him, changing his mentality from that to a bastard to a high lord. Suffice it to say, he is regretting, now telling his brother about his marital issues. Wait till you have a wife then. I will have the last laugh, he sniffs in reply. Robb only laughs, patting him in the back. Yes, I will marry someday, but until then, Jon, I'll leave the wife issues to you and you alone. Say, how was that white runt that we sent you a few years before? Asks Robb. Ghost? He's around, answers Jon, remembering fondly the white direwolf pup that Ser Roderick has delivered to him a few years before. He doesn't like to be locked up, and I let him roam on his own. Saves me the trouble of cleaning up after him and feeding him. He prefers it that way. You mean you let your direwolf walk free? Robb whistles. Yes, Ghost is dependable, and he doesn't hunt down people, at least those that don't deserve it anyway, he replies with a wolf-like grin, remembering the rather fair number of bandits and hooligans that Ghost dropped under. Dal Amroth is, after all, a rich town port, and where riches gather, those all intent always congregate it like flies. That's not fair. Mum won't allow our direwolves to wander around, pouts Arya unhappily. She always insists that we lock them up in the kennels. I want Nymeria to sleep with me on my bed. Jon resists the urge to snort loudly. Somehow, he can't imagine prom and proper Catelyn the bitch Tully allowing the direwolves free rein on Winterfell's courtyards and fields. He can't help but wonder what his father sees in her that he loves. The woman is in every sense a southern flower, and worse, refuses to accept the traditions and practices of the North wholeheartedly. I see the bastard's back! A very familiar drawl makes Jon mentally scowl as he turns to see Theon. Jon doesn't even hide the acid in his tone. As slimy as always, I see. And look at you, Snow, now all cloaked, prime and proper like a lordling. Tell me, Snow, how does it feel to be a proper lord? Amazing, isn't it? Yes, it is. I've also fought tooth and nail to earn myself this position. Unlike someone whom I can mention is born simply on the spot for it, Jon snarks back, ignoring the back and fro motion, the heads of the other Stark onlookers. What can I say, Snow? The gods are the ones who put us where we are. Maybe it's because some are born to be proper lords, while others are destined to be bastards. Then it's good to see that the gods have seen fit to put you with us. Then Greyjoy instead at your father's side. There is some justice in the world after all. Jon replies, enjoying the sight of the pinched face of the squid. The can has been tormenting him a lot before his ascension to Prince of Dol Amroth. After all, to see the tables turning is like drinking finely fermented wine. Robb must have seen the sudden arrival of tension, for he grips Theon's shoulder firmly. Come, Theon. I'm sure father would be missing us at the feast. His stern gaze is enough for Theon to understand the silent command. The squid toots before nodding in silent affirmation, glaring heatedly at him. A bastard will always remain a bastard, Snow, no matter how much you dress it up. And with that final word, walks off. Robb just raises his shoulders in a what-do-you-know gesture before also walking off after his best friend. As for Jon, he just smiles. Before, he might have fumed and been pissed at the words of Theon, but never now. Let's just say, spending the first few months with Ygritte has literally reduced his tolerance about insults of his bastardry status, and none to null, the fiery woman has a mouth in her after all. Do you want to meet my wife? I'm telling you, Arya, you'll love her. Jon ushers his last 3 siblings forward. Robb might have run off with Theon, but the happy 3 parts of his family are still present at least. Winterfell, after feast, Lord's private solar. The private solar of the Kings of Winter is as simple gets. Like everything else in the North, it focuses on practicability and usefulness. The stone walls are warm and polished cleanly. The furnitures are all brand new, replaced every few decades by the carpenters, and a large single plaque has been set at the back with a mural of a dire wolf where the Valyrian greatsword ice rests in its glory. Right now, though, 2 men are sitting on the solar, one behind the desk and the other at the side. They bear almost the same similar features, though. The one behind is broader compared to the lanky but tall size of the other. Benjen Stark sighs as he scratches his back. Not for the last time, he curses the stewards of the watch. While he trusts his brothers at the wall, he knows more than anyone that many of the stewards are rather lazy at laundry work and thus unwanted insect guests at their black cloaks. The sound of a knock makes the two men immediately perk up, with the younger one smoothing his black outfit. With a call of "come in," the familiar form of the Lady of Rivendell enters. Ned Stark can't help but mentally groan as his brother's eyebrows perk up at the backless crimson-red outfit of the Lady of Rivendell. Benjen, after all, is the most un-Stark-like in attitude out of his entire family. Lady Deliana, might I say it, is a pleasure to meet you. Songs of your beauty and your charm seems to be under-exaggerated. Up far north on the wall, croons Benjen in a tone that makes Ned want to whack him with a belt. Lord Benjen Stark, I thank you for your voluntary service on the wall. That place always needs honorable people to keep the rest in line. As a citizen of the realm, you have my utmost thanks for protecting us against wildlings and many other things that live across the wall. Oh, you know who I am? Asks Benjen excitedly, making the lady smile only pleasantly in turn. Yes, I do. Lord Benjen. I make it a habit to know much about the people I am doing business with, and the North is a trading partner of Rivendell. For that I know a lot about your family. Now I am here because of your summons, Lord Stark. This time, Deliana addresses him directly, making Ned sigh in appreciation at the unsaid gesture that she wants to go directly into business. Yes, have a seat, my lady, and pull yourself together, brother, and act like your age, reprimands Ned curtly, making Benjen pout as he acquiesces, but not before muttering, "Spoil sport," softly. Now that the two are seated, Ned takes a breath, wordlessly pouring wine to a wooden cup, which he hands at the Lady of Rivendell, and another to his brother. My lady, I apologize for summoning you this late hour, but the things I need to talk with you in this room is important and quite confidential. I believe that it is better that we conduct such affairs in closed doors with fewer ears to hear. A wise decision, Lord Stark. Am I right to assume that this is about the king's decision on making you his hand? Please, Lord Stark, don't insult my intelligence. Everyone from Dorne to the Riverlands know that the king would only travel this far north after the death of Jon Arryn to make you his hand. To fill that position, after all, it would mean someone that the king truly trusts, especially if it is Robert we are talking about. While the natural choice would be someone like Tywin Lannister, he would never go for it, since he doesn't like the man. Robert would rather choose the emotional choice rather than the wise one. Unfortunately,
Ned only winces at that.
he can still remember the bloodied forms of the Targaryen child of Rhaegar displayed on the throne room, with Rhaenys' corpse thrown on the ocean. Yes, I know Robert can be impulsive and vengeful, which is why I've asked you to come here personally to ask you a favor specifically. What favor exactly are you talking about, Lord Stark? Asks the Lady of Rivendell. Ned takes a deep breath, knowing very well that what he is about to do is something that no Lord of the North has ever done to a Southerner before since Torrhen Stark bent the knee to Aegon Targaryen. Admit his weakness. I'm asking for your help when I head down south with Robert, my lady. I am not well versed of all the politics down south, and personally I don't think I am the man for the job. I have no one to trust down south at King's Landing, except maybe Robert, and well, Robert is not that much of a help actually, due to his vices. You, on the other hand, my lady, I know are knowledgeable about the capital. You could help me as Hand of the King. Ned just gulps, as the Lady of Rivendell seems to view him in a critical eye. He doesn't meet Benjen's surprised gaze at his admission of needing help, knowing very well the disapproving stare that he would see there. Finally, after almost an eternity, Deliana Tully finally replies, "If I say to this, then what does that benefit me?" Ned gulps, expecting this very question. There is, after all, nothing such as free here in Westeros. The personal access and privileges as Hand of the King. I might be acting as hand, but I would be listening to your advice and instruction. You can request for me personal favors, as long as it doesn't impact the kingdom or the royal family in a wrong way. Fair enough. Very well. I agree, Lord Stark. I would be coming with you down in King's Landing, says Deliana, making Ned breathe a sigh of relief at hearing it. If this fails, he doesn't know actually what to do. First advice, however, Lord Stark, before you start getting relaxed, is this. Other than me, never ever trust someone fully in King's Landing, says the dame seriously. The capital is not like the North. Everyone has an agenda there of their own. Always be mindful of your surroundings and your words. Very few keeps their word there unless they can benefit themselves. Lying and deception is as easy as breathing down there for the court. Ned sniffs already, not liking where this is starting. As a Northman, he prides himself for honor and honesty. Putting himself where everything has been turned 180 is already making him not want to go there. Second advice, the realm is in shambles. Lord Stark, with the kingdom heavily in debt by the millions at which you will be informed later eve more, as Hand of the King, it is your duty to maintain the king's peace. Understand this, Lord Stark, this is not the time of the Targaryens where a show of force is necessary. Jon Arryn maintained the peace by pacts and promises. It would be your duty to do the same. Northern justice and show of strength will gain you nothing down south but enemies. It does not help that the current heir of our Robert is not exactly shaping up to reason. You will need to be shrewd and practical. Honor has no place down south. So leave it here in the north. Choose survival over there instead of honesty always. Ned can't help but gulp. The weight of responsibility heaping on his shoulders at every word the young woman is saying. It worsens as he remembers the chaos that is about to ensue due to Robert's secret agenda about the future of the kingdom. Third advice, don't expect help from your friend Robert. He barely attends the meetings for the small council, and don't trust the queen, for she has agendas of her own. Dark secrets hover over the capital, Lord Stark, and the death of Jon Arryn is not a coincidence. I know you would want to do an investigation of your own, but I ask you that you let me and my people do it, she smirks wryly. No offense, but you Northmen simply lacks the subtlety required for the job. Lastly, Lord Stark, not many would like you down south, due to the fact that you are a Northerner at all times. Keep your patience. They would hate you even more by associating to me, since I am a former bastard and an enemy of the faith. Never go anywhere unarmed and unguarded. Keep your wits about you, always, and trust only people that you are absolutely sure you can trust. Ned just nods, knowing very well that his first test of patience would be explaining to his wife that he's taking the former Tully bastard as an advisor to his position. Somehow, he feels as if this job that Robert is handing over to him has all the work with none of the benefits. Winterfell entrance gates.
Do we have to go out this early?
Robert! Ned stifles a yawn threatening to come out of his mouth. Suffice it to say that he has gotten very little sleep the last night. He has, after all, does the honorable decision on informing his wife about his plans heading south. Suffice it to say, her reaction is both positive and negative. Positive in the way that she's elated that her daughter is about to be married to the royal family, and negative due to his decision and asking her half-sister for help. Ned, of course, expects that she wouldn't be happy about it. Catelyn and Diliana's stations and lives make them naturally polar opposite to one another. Add Catelyn's southern upbringing and way of looking at bastards, and you get a volatile mixture akin to that of wildfire, only waiting for the slightest spark to go boom in the worst way possible. Long story short, an exhausted, extremely worried, but full Ned Stark has to sleep on the floor after getting his ear the argument of century from his wife. Apparently for her, if he needs some political help and advice, her good friend Petyr Baelish would be the logical choice, the current master of coin. While normally Ned would have no worries trusting the connections of his wife, the warning of Deliana last night about not trusting anyone from the capital rings like a doorbell. Thus he disagrees much to the anger and annoyance of Catelyn. Now Ned is stiff and sore from sleeping on the cold hard ground. He has been wakened rather rudely by one of the Baratheon guardsmen sent by his friend. Apparently a now fully fed and watered Robert is wanting a hunt now. While Ned would have no issues at such a request, usually he is stressed from yesterday's worries, and his rather not-so-comfortable rest only adds to his lack of enthusiasm about Robert's request. Unfortunately, Robert is not just some young lordling that he can say fuck off and go back to sleep anymore. He is the king, and despite his insistence that Ned treats him like when they're younger, it is expected of Ned to adhere to his wishes due to his station. Thus Ned is here right now, pale-faced and swaying in his saddle with Jory and other Northerners. Robert, on the other hand, is his usual jolly self, talking about how much they would have fun and recalling how much fun they would have back at the Vale during hunts like these. Suppressing a yawn once more and wanting an innate desire to go bath in the hot springs to relieve his stressed muscles, Ned forces himself to nod along with Robert's words and desires. He just hopes that Catelyn would not cause a ruckus while he's gone. He has left Sir Roderick in charge alongside Maester Luwin. He has also recruited extra guards from Wintertown. For some reason, Ned can feel the cold touch of fate reaching its unwanted fingers today. Winterfell Training Yard. Robb has always known that Jon is better than him with the sword. He does not take it personally to heart, despite the fact that his ego is getting a bit hurt during the bouts. His brother, after all, would inherit less than nothing due to his status as a bastard. However, right now, as he backpedals fast to avoid his brother's long sword from ringing his head like a bell, he somehow can't help but wonder if he has been neglecting his training somehow. It seems the change in Jon is not limited simply on his economic and facial status. As they fight on, Robb realizes one thing. Jon fights extremely dirty instead of the honorable way that Robb is used to from before. Every sword strike is followed up by a kick, an elbow, or a punch. More than once, Robb has to lean back to avoid his jewels from being permanently damaged. As it is, the result is inevitable. Frantically raising his shield to block the savage downward stroke of Jon, the sudden pain in his gut forces all the air out of Robb's lungs before he finds himself flying and landing hard on his back at the ground. Before he can pull himself up again, the cold feeling of steel at his neck stops him from moving. Yield, the amused voice of Jon, sounds as he stares down at him. Robb only scowls at the triumphant look of his brother, pushing the sword away with his fingers. I yield. Did you really have to kick me that hard? That will surely bruise, he scowls, touching his tender stomach where the kick makes contact. Already, the cheering crowd of onlookers can be heard around them. Many are changing money, making Robb scowl in annoyance, as he realizes that many are betting against him. He pointedly takes note of the angry look at his mother's face at Jon winning. Training is supposed to be practice for real-time fighting, answers Jon sagely, making Robb throw a side swing at him half-heartedly, which he dodges. He's right, you know, my lord, interjects Sir Roderick. In a real battle, there would be no such thing as fighting fair. It is who gets to kill the other that matters. I will remember your words, Sir Roderick, thank you, Robb replies, backing away from Jon and readying himself for another round. Unfortunately, their sparring comes into a jarring pause as an alien drawl sounds out in the yard. What do we have here? Boys playing with practice swords. The pompous form of Joffrey, heir to the Iron Throne, appears with the Hound close behind him. Immediately everyone in the yard bows at his presence, though the Northerner's expression looks like they have been forced to swallow a lemon whole. My prince, to what do we owe your presence here? Robb leads diplomatically. Just checking to see if the rumors are true, answers Joffrey with a sniff. I have grown up of tales of my father bringing down the mighty Targaryen dynasty with the help of the gallant knights of the Vale and the great warriors of the north. Somehow, I am disappointed to see the latter fighting with practice swords. It doesn't seem to give credit to the tales, does it? Pardon me, your highness, but the reason we use training swords here is to perfect the form of many. There's no point, after all, in training if every mistake ends the boys here with wounds and cuts. It is only practical, after all, interjects Sir Roderick. What you call practical, I call cowardice. Sir Master-at-Arms. Back at the capital, we do not practice with toy swords, but with real live steel like all knights do. Maybe it's because there are so few knights here at the north that fighting skill becomes unnecessary, leaving more brawlers than warriors a pity, he boasts. The sound of grinding teeth can be heard across the yard as every Northerner who heard the implied insult is itching to get their hands on the prick. Those with cooler heads perceive the tension, and more than one Northerner is stopped in one way or another by his fellows to prevent escalation. Even Robb himself has to hold his own temper, and if not for Jon stepping in and holding his shoulder, he might have challenged the prick to a bout of real live steel and see how much northern brawliness is needed to put him in his backside. Fortunately for Robb, his desire to put the prince to the test comes sooner than he expects. Then why don't you show them a bit of princely chivalry, brother? The clear voice of Princess Myrcella cuts through the thick cloud of anger of the Northerners. Immediately, everyone turns to see the beautiful form of Princess Myrcella also approaching the training yard. Approval immediately shines on the eyes of the Northmen. Unlike her younger brother, who is dressed like he is about to head into some kind of fancy dinner, the eldest royal is wearing practical clothes of white shirt, pants, and boots. Her blonde hair is in a ponytail, and there are no ornaments clinging to her as Joffrey is. A sword is strapped at her waist with a belt. Following her are two death dealers as silent as statues, and the lithe figure of her guard in full Death Dealer leathers with 2 swords strapped at her waist. Your Highness, Princess Marcella, for the second time, the Northerners bow, though Joffrey scowls at her arrival. What are you doing here, sister? Shouldn't you be doing some sewing with Mother? He drawls out in annoyance. Like you, brother, I am here to train. Though I must say after that bold declaration of yours, I would rather like instead to watch and see how your mettle tests against our proud northern allies. Her smile is like that of a cat that has its canary. As for Robb, he is almost grinning as he realizes the opportunity to thrash the overgrown pillock that is the prince of the realm. He is itching to draw his sword and do some live steel testing of his own. The moment the proud prince accepts. He will accept for his pride, will he? Princes do not have time to play around with toy swords. His sudden answer, voice's indecision, makes the Northerners blink as more and more of his personality starts to show. And little girls don't belong to the training yard. Oh, really? Then you would have no problem beating a girl then, brother, in a bout, replies Marcella, back slyly catching everyone's attention. This time Robb is forced to step in. My lady, no offense, but are you planning on fighting your brother? He asks in bewilderment. Me? Of course not, she responds in what is clearly mock outrage with over-exaggerated gestures. The predatory smile, however, that follows almost makes Robb make a step back. My guard, however, would have no qualms for a spar or two, she responds, pointing at the other young woman with Dornish features, who grins at them all before removing the belt off her waist. Alongside her 2 swords, which she hands over to one of the Death Dealers. She then proceeds to one of the racks at the field containing wooden and blunted swords. With a flourish, 2 blunt blades are on her hand as she walks to the center field. This is Rogere, my guard. Surely you wouldn't be afraid of fighting a little girl half your size, right, brother? Especially with you using a real sword instead. Marcella mercilessly pouts insultingly at her younger sibling, who looks as red as a tomato right now in anger. If not for the fact that he is rather concerned about the little girl actually on field about to deal with a real weapon, he might have laughed at the baiting. The little shit that is the Crown Prince simply has no other option. If he pulls back publicly, then no one else will take him seriously. He would be a complete laughingstock. As such, he only has one other option. Come on then. Let's see how the little bitch fetch, eh? And with one flourish, the ceremonial sword from his waist is out and drawn before he over-exaggeratedly marches towards the field where the princess's guard is waiting. One look at the start of the bout immediately tells Robb 2 things. First of all is the fact that the guard of the princes is no slouch. Her form is perfect, and there is no sign of hesitation in her movements. This only means that it is natural to her. Secondly, it becomes perfectly clear to all that Joffrey knows jack shit about fighting. His stance is wrong, his angle is all open spaces, and he might as well be shouting to the entire world where he is aiming at in slow motion. With an over-exaggerated yell, Joffrey makes a downward stroke. Using both hands, Rhaenyra simply moves her shoulder to the side, the attack of Joffrey with all his weight behind it, suddenly going against him as he is caught off balance. Using the pommel of her practice sword, she slams it into the gut of Joffrey before going past his choking form and whacking the back of his knees, making him fall onto it immediately. Oh my. I never thought I would saw the day that our dear Crown Prince would be beaten by a girl, comments Marcella. If not for the fact that the Crown Prince looks extremely enraged, Robb might have laughed. As it is, he pulls himself up and with another yell, makes a wild overhead stroke that the girl blocks with her sword, eyebrows rising at how pathetic and off form it is before kicking him again in the gut, forcing Joffrey back a few steps. Panting, he makes a sudden stab, dash forward, which she simply again avoids by standing aside but letting her blade slide against his, but this time putting a foot in front. With a panicked yell, Joffrey falls face flat on the muddy ground. Due to tripping, a few sniggers can be heard at the yard at the very sight of the Crown Prince eating dirt. Enough of this, the muddy and murky Crown Prince of Westeros stands up with mud and dirt clinging to his pristine outfit. His face is almost invisible with the mud peppering it, and his blonde hair is askew. You. And you two come and help me put this bitch down. He roars, pointing fingers at Robb, Jon, Theon, Ser Roderick, and a random Northman. When no one immediately follows his command, as everyone looks at each other in confusion, he points his sword at them. It is a command from your prince, obey me, he roars in anger. Robb can't help but sigh as he steps forward. Despite not liking the little bastard, he is technically the crown prince, and Robb owes him his allegiance. It is what his honor dictates after all. I'm really sorry about this, Robb says out loud as he steps forward in the yard with the rest that Joffrey has pointed. Also following suit, though, all of them obviously looks like they wanted to be anywhere but here. No worries, 5 against 1 is a fair fight now, the young Dornish woman replies, drawing her second blade as Robb draws his own practice ones with the rest of his retinue following suit. Beat her and drag her bloody form to me. Your prince commands it, the idiot at the back wails loudly, making Robb roll his eyes. As it is, he stares at the young woman, contemplating how best to start his attack. He already plans not to damage her badly, maybe disarm her and humiliate her a bit. She is after all. His thoughts are broken when the random Northern Guard made the first move as he charges forward with a shout with his own practice blade. Whatever thoughts of taking it easy on her disappears as she blocks the charge with her right sword a half step backward before doing the exact opposite, her weight pushing the locked blades unevenly. The sudden movement catches the guard off course, and before he can regain his footing, she slides the blade in an angle, catching him off guard as it cuts into his throat. If it is a real sword, he might have been dead. As it is just a paper-thin scratch, as he falls off to the side, clutching his wounded throat with a new realization about life. Robb immediately forward, attacking with his blade with a series of normal strikes to test the capacity of his opponent. She gives way to his blows, nullifying his advantage of weight. It also prevents the others of his company from interfering and finding a blind spot on her, since Robb is being forced to push alone. As he strikes more and more, Robb can feel as if he's being played, as his attacks are easily blocked and with ease. Already his arms are getting stiffer and stiffer. The damned woman is not only blocking, but is making small twirls of her own blades at each contact, resending the jarring motion back of Robb's strikes, echoing into his own arms. If not for the fact that he's the recipient of such jarring counters, he might have appreciated the flawless technique. Robb, get out of the way! The sudden shout from Theon makes Robb instantly disengage as he is replaced by his best friend, who charges forward with a shield and a buckler. He parries the stab, following Robb with his crossguard before making a 360 twirl, followed by a shield bash, which forces the young woman a step back. He attempts to follow up with an overhead strike from above, only to be surprised to be unable to do so, courtesy of the momentum of the shield, which misses its bash. There is a good reason why shields are not used as offensive weapons. They tend to mess around with coordination and footwork due to their weight and ungainly design as a weapon. As it is, he has a split-second pause as he tries to regain his balance, only to freeze at the feel of a blade tip at his throat. Dead, Rhaelray smirks victoriously before turning to the rest of them remaining. She's too good. We attack her together, surround her, barks Sir Roderick, making the rest of them. Him and Jon nod wordlessly before charging together. 3 against 2 might have been overkill for anyone else. But for the current fight, it is a balanced fight. Robb is truly impressed with the bodyguard of Princess Myrcella. Wielding 2 practice blades, she pounces and parries their attacks like a dancer, gracefully twirling and turning, leaving no opening for them. Even Jon's style of graceful sweeps, which throws Robb off the entire morning, is being defended against as if she's simply taking a walk in the gardens. For a while, the uneven duel continues, the teamwork of the 3 Northmen giving them a balanced edge against the skill of their opponent. The thing about teamwork, though, is one single mistake can cause a complete damage to a perfect equilibrium that can cause it to cascade like a deck of cards. Sir Roderick tries a sweeping undercut by falling on his knees, which the Dornish woman evades. His attempt at rising again, however, gets a hiccup as his bad knee fails at first try to get him up. Their opponent sees the opportunity, disengages, and attacks the rising knight, ringing his head like a bell. Rah! Seeing their mentor and friend falling makes both Jon and Robb charge forward recklessly, now trading seamless coordination into aggressive strikes. For a while, it seems that their sudden advance has caught the Dornish woman off guard, as she is forced back due to the ferociousness of their charge. For Robb, it seems that it is working only for his stroke to be blocked mid-air before a sword is at his brother's throat, eliminating him also from the fight. As it is, Robb gets a full front view of his opponent up close. Her face is sharp and angled with a high jawline with sharp features. Her eyes are slanted a bit, like a cat, with her eyes the deepest violet. All in all, she looks positively divine. A cold blade being pressed at his throat brings Robb back to reality as he looks down to see the sword. Now at his throat, he sweat drops at the realization that he has been staring like a moron, and everyone has seen it. "I won," the Dornish beauty simply says before pushing him away and walking off to a very terrified-looking Joffrey. As his brothers and friends gather around to check on him, the only thing that is bouncing around Robb's head is the beautiful face of the Dornish woman. He barely even cares at the pained yelps and sounds coming from a certain blonde twat who is getting the beating of a lifetime. The only thing bouncing inside his head, however, is the gorgeous face of the enemy that just whooped his ass 9 ways of hell into 7th heaven. Crags of Rivendell. Normally, the roosts of the Griffins do not require cleaning or any kind of maintenance. Nature, after all, takes care of everything that needs cleaning in this part of the mountain, no matter how smelly. However, it all changed when the Rivendell staff receives an unwilling addition with very specific instructions on where to assign him. Old Walder Frey gags as he tries for the 100th time to scoop up another pile of poop on the crags. He cursed in his mind the whore that massacred his entire family, take his castle and riches, then abduct him and reduce him to some kind of servant. Now here he is bound by her sorcery and the promise of a gory death if he dares even think about any kind of rebellion. He now serves his days scooping and scrubbing piss and poop of the giant animals of Rivendell, who is only waiting for the excuse to rip him to shreds. Old Walder does his new assigned duty in life to the best of his worst enthusiasm. Above all else, after all, he is a survivor, and if it means that he clean and scrub to be alive, he would do so, and wait for the perfect opportunity to bite the hands that bind him. He just doesn't understand why. Must he wear a name tag that says Argus Filch instead of his real name, though? Plus, he is also given a cat as a friend. Judging by the non-stop staring it is giving him, which gives Walder the cooties and creeps, he would bet his left ball sack that it is an unnatural beast, too. A Gryphon flies overhead, making Walder squawk in fear and alarm again. He curses as he slips on the pile of poop he is cleaning and lands on another pile. "Argus Filch, get your bony ass back to cleaning." He just sniffles at the shout reprimand of one of the death dealers supervising him. Winterfell, abandoned, Tower Yard. "Lord Stark, wait up! Don't run too much, else your mother will find out that you are disobeying her again." Yasmina calls out to the aspiring young lord, who is running ahead of her, with Lady Deliana having a private meeting with Lord Tywin Lannister, Princess Marcella, and Rhaenys going off to put a little bit of vengeance to the bastard that made Princess Marcella's life hell during her younger days. Yasmina takes the duty on babysitting the hyperactive child of House Stark due to his mother's personal request to her. Suffice it to say that Yasmina has been kept busy during this travel time with the rest of the retinue of Rivendell. She, after all, has to take the place usually occupied by the Lady Castellan of organizing and putting the camp up prime and proper, other than her usual personal duties of making sure that the residences of the Lady Deliana and her friends are set up as comfortable as possible. That is not counting, of course, her bed duties. The Lady in Marcella tends to demand her services in alternate moments after all. The sound of proud laughter makes Yasmina want to sigh in defeat as she looks up to see the third eldest son of House Stark climbing up the abandoned tower of Winterfell. It seems that in her moment of thoughtfulness, the young boy has given her the slip and is now scaling the tower of Winterfell with ease like a spider. She has to admit that the young boy has talent as she watches him scale the stones. She has been a participant after all of the usual mountain treks and climbs that the Lady of Rivendell and her friends tend to do. Brandon Stark is a natural as far as she can see. He seems to make climbing easy as breathing. Confident of his skills, Yasmina sits on a broken part of the wall, observing the area around her. She can't help but admire Winterfell for all its ruggedness. Sure, it can never aspire to be anything like the Lady of Rivendell can build. She literally can make miracles if she has the mind for it, but it has its own beauties. The very castle represents the North, strong, large, and enduring. She is here for only a day, but she can already feel the generations of souls that might have lived here once. This place has seen and witnessed much. Part of her wonders if Rivendell might one day also be the same. "Graham, be careful." Yasmina instinctively calls out as the spare air of Winterfell's foot slips on a wet, loose rock, though he recovers quickly and are now heading towards the only window of the tower. She shakes her head as she watches the young man peek his head inside. Westeros is a lot better compared to Yi. For a concubine like her, sure, it is demanding and hard work, especially for someone like the Lady Deliana, but it lacks the court intrigue that can get people who has the same station as her likely killed in 7 different ways. She looks again to where she has seen Bran last. The young boy, it seems, has finally entered the window of the tower safely. Yasmina sighs as her entire body relaxes. Maybe now that she's not worried about him making a 20-foot drop, she can relax a bit. The sudden yell snaps her into action as she watches in surprise and horror as the body of Bran goes flying off the window of the tower. Before she knows it, she is in action already and moving to intercept the fall of the boy. She might not be as skilled or savvy when it comes to weapons like Rhaenys, Deliana, or Amelia, but Yasmina is just as fit as them. Seeing that her lovers prefer her form that way, she can move fast when she wants to. Already, she can estimate with her eyes the fall of Bran and where he will land. Just a little more and I can catch him, she whispers to herself, knowing very well that such an action, however, would break parts of her arms and probably her ribs too. She's not worried, however. The best medical care in this continent, and probably the world, can be found at Rivendell. 1 bottle of Dreamless Sleep and Skelegro from the stash of the Green Men can solve her damage issues while she sleeps like a baby. That is why Yasmina is totally caught by surprise, when without warning something enters her mind, freezing her entire body. Her eyes widen in shock with not a little bit of horror at the sudden intrusion. She is still herself, but something, it seems, have taken root also inside her brain that is not hers. She can feel it like a rusty nail drilling through her skull. Forgive me, child, but fate has already demanded the tragedy of Brandon Stark. Destiny already has plans for him. An old ragged voice speaks inside her head, making her panic even more. As it is, her focus on the voice disappears as she instead turns in horror to watch as Bran's body fell as if in slow motion before landing with a pain crack on the cold hard ground back first. The body bounces once like a fallen rag doll before going eerily still. Yasmina might not be able to move her limbs or her body, but she can still move her eyes. She turns them upward, only to see the gleeful face of the Queen of Westeros looking down at the unmoving Stark boy. It then turns towards her, the successful gleam morphing into that of horror and surprise. She might have been worried right there and then, if not for the eyes turning to something behind her. A rough, smelly hand grabs her immobile head from the back before the stench of something foul and dirt-trodden presses itself behind her. A hand covers her mouth, preventing whatever sound that she might have been giving off, if no for the parasite inside her mind. I might have fucked you bloody into the ground, girl, whispers whoever it is that have grabbed her. A slimy tongue licks the back of her left ear, making her heart thud wildly inside her chest. The queen, however, is an impatient woman, and it is such a shame that only your dead body would do. She makes a wordless scream inside her head as something cold and sharp pierces her spine and again, and again, and again, and again until her eyes close, and everything goes dark. Winterfell, private rooms. Do you know why you are here? The rich, cultured voice of Tywin Lannister might have been intimidating for anyone else, but not for Deliana. Tully. The man has a parallel aura of superiority that Snape oh so loved to put up when dealing with not those of his favored Slytherin house. Of course, the man loves to lord it most of all when dealing with Harry, whom he loathed. I assume it's because of the betrothal contract that the Princess Marcella wants to establish between me and her. Judging by the seriousness of your tone and the expression of your face, Deliana smirks as she notices a slight upturning of the man's lips to a ghost of a smile. Say what you will about Tywin, but the man, despite his coldness, appreciates intelligence and competency, especially if they're not against him. She doesn't want to imagine what it must be like to be completely surrounded by doddering fools born to a life of luxury and leisure. Yes, it is. I'm sure you already know how grave this matter is and why I'm rather reluctant to the proposal brought to me by my granddaughter, points out Tywin. I am. Knowing Westeros' view about the same-gender relationships, this would be a scandal that would reach the farthest ends of the known world. The princess of the realm choosing officially to marry a woman officially. It might have been different if it would only be a secret relationship like our dear brother to the king, Renly Baratheon. This one is a public statement for everyone to see, hear, and talk about. Yet do you know as to the reason why you are considering this even though the risks it carry is great? Tywin asks, leaning heavily on his cushioned chair. Lyanna only laughs, taking from her robes a golden dragon conjured when she put her hand in her pocket. It'll disappear 30 minutes later and placing it on the desk of the old lion before sliding it to him. Such a small coin, but anyone and everyone is willing to break centuries of culture and taboo for. How magnificent money is, isn't it, Lord Tywin? Yes, I do know your main motivation as to why you are agreeing to this betrothal, even though you have a high distaste of such relationships. It would be interesting to be on partnership with House Lannister, my lord. So do you accept this betrothal offer that my granddaughter is offering? Asks Tywin, his green eyes piercing. Lyanna only smiles before taking the jug of Arbor Gold at the small table in front of her and pouring it into the 2 crystal goblets with lion designs. I do. May the future be proud and prosperous between our 2 houses. For House Lannister, Tywin takes one of the 2 cups and raising it near his temple. For House Tully, Lyanna echoes out, raising her own mug before clinking it with that of Tywin. Just as the drink touches her lips, the sudden bang at the door nearly makes the 2 of them jump without warning.
What is the meaning of this? Booms out Tywin loudly, obviously livid at the interruption. Can't you see I am in the middle of a meeting?
Forgive me, my lord. His personal red cloak enters with a deep bow. There is some sort of commotion outside, and the guards of the palace are putting the place on lockdown. Before he can say even more, one of the death dealers also appeared with a wordless nod at her before speaking. My lady, we have secured the Princess Myrcella as per protocol. The Lady Rhaenys has headed off to investigate the commotion, as did Lord Draco. We await your orders, my lady. Lyanna inwardly smiles at his words. She has specifically detailed that she would not be some kind of damsel of distress that needs protection to her personal guards. She would not be herded like some kind of goat in protection. No, sir. She rather prefer being in the front always and knowing what's going on. The death dealers are just backup since, well, no matter how good one person is, it is just plain stupid not to have any kind of backup. I am coming with you, Captain. Have 5 of your best men assembled. We are going to find out what is causing this ungodly ruckus. Winterfell, abandoned tower. Rhaenys not for the last time, thanks her lucky stars, and the old gods for the different lifestyle dropped in her lap. Instead of being educated like the broodmare hens that are prevalent of her gender, she is trained to fight and to be independent. This is the reason why she is here following the lead of Draco, as the pale blonde man maintains a steady space with the rest of the death dealers assigned to head out, and identifies the source of the trouble currently in Winterfell. Far ahead, Rhaenys can espy Robb Stark leading his own household guards at the forefront. She has to admit, for someone rather easy to beat in the yard, the young Yen has rather good natural leading skills. He's not also bad in the eyes either. The Lady Lyanna has been informed she's taking up the rear with her guard. The death dealer at her side speaks out, making Rhaenys nod in silent affirmation. What happened? Is my brother okay? Robb demands, as they finally meet up to 3 of the small folk pulling what seems to be a run-down-looking cart filled with hay she can espy at the back. The small form of Robb's brother laying deathly still and at her side. However, is someone Rhaenys does not expect to see. Yasmina, she can feel herself calling out as she barrels past Blackguard, death dealer, and a rather surprised but worried heir of the north as she jumps atop the cart, looking down at the bloodied form of one of her sisters in heart. What happened to her? Rhaenys barks out, her tone brooking no argument, making the 3 small folks squeak at her angry gaze. WW Boo, we are delivering supplies. WWG, when we walk past T the B, Broken T Tower, and we found their bodies. Do we recognize the 8th son of L. Lord Stark, but we do not know T the lady. She's wearing noble C clothes though. So, we thought it should be bring her along. T too. Stutters one of the small folk. Rhaenys wrinkles her nose at the bad breathe of the man, though. She pushes it off her mind. She gazes, however, at the bloody form of Yasmina. One look at her body and Rhaenys can see the multiple stab wounds all over her. The shallow breaths, however, coming from her is indication that she's still alive. Don't die on me, love. Lyanna and Myrcella won't forgive me if you died on my watch. whispers Marcella, pulling out a vial of healing potion from her utility belt. Every death dealer has one for emergencies, and downing it inside her friend's mouth, pinching her nose to make her swallow it. It's not enough for her current damages, but it would do at least until they can get a hold of their lady. Bran! By the gods, Bran! The panicky voice of Robb sounds out at her side, and Rhaenys spares a glance at the boy. He is pale and obviously also near death. He has no outside sign of a wound, however. Robb, however, is in near hysterics as he pats his brother up and down, looking for some sign of damage. My lord, we need to get your brother and the Lady Yasmina to the Maester. The firm voice of Ser Roderick snaps Robb out of his state as he gulps hard and nods in affirmation. You three help pull the cart back to the castle. Hurry, shouts Robb, galvanizing the Northman guards to aid on pushing and pulling the cart alongside the three small folk. Someone ride ahead and make sure that Maester Luwing is prepared for our arrival. Even as Robb barks out orders to his men, Rhaenys hangs back as she leaps off the rickety contraption. Making sure that no one is looking, she opens the pendant containing 4 mirrors attached at her neck. Not a minute later, 3 different faces containing that of Deliana, Marcella, and Emilia stare at her in concern, and for good reason. The mirrors are supposed to be only during emergencies. It is the face of the Lady of Rivendell that Rhaenys focuses on. However, taking a breath of air to calm her beating heart, Yasmina breathes out, Lady Deliana, we need your help. Yasmina has been attacked and would not survive long without your intervention. Rivendell camp outside Winterfell. While the members of the nobility of Rivendell saunter inside Winterfell to attend the festivities and do the courtesy of going with the king's entourage, the Death Dealers and the Blackguard, to many to attend, set up their camp here outside of Winterfell. For many, this would be an insult and a source of anger and shame. For the men of Rivendell, however, it is just another day. Usual standard Gar ration fare can put to shame any meal of Westeros any time of the day. Besides, for the Death Dealers especially, the presence of a separate camp is an advantage where their leaders can fall back to in case their hosts seem to be less than accommodating. Westeros has the tradition of bread and salt, which basically protects the visitor. However, for the Death Dealers, tradition is not 100% reassurance, and anyone in their order would not settle less than 100% if they can help it. Right now, however, the private camp of Rivendell is in lockdown, as Deliana, Marcella, and Rhaenys rides inside the main tent reserved only for the Lady of Rivendell. The body of Yasmina has been gently placed on a wooden table, cleared of its usual plates and glasses. She is alive, barely. Deliana would be the first to admit that she's not the best at healing spells, but she's not the worst either. Having a career as a Dark Lord, catcher extraordinaire, tends to put her in a lot of tight spaces before. More than once, he has taken the wrong end of piercing spells of different variety from the madmen and women. This made her rather proficient on patching herself up. Something that is serving her well now? Her hand hovers over the stab wounds, her magic doing their thing to repair the damaged flesh and skin. She has counted 6 so far. At Yasmina's mouth, Marcella and Rhaenys are busy pouring blood-replenishing potions down her throat to keep her alive, as Deliana worked. While her work is efficient, it is slow progress, and every second counts in keeping Rhaenys alive as she works. Deliana, however, does not simply heal her physically. While her hands worked inch upon inch, her mind's probe drill like a hot knife through butter into the confines of Yasmina's shut-down mind. The only time other than today that she has delved into Yasmina's mind is during her first arrival. Since then, the girl has proven herself a good friend and an extremely loyal one. If there is one thing that Deliana really hates, is when people she values gets fucked up, hurt her, and she might forgive you, but hurt the people she loves. Well, that's another story. Thus, as she probes through the confines of Yasmina's memory, her eyes narrow in anger at the information she's getting as she pieces things together. As he probes slowly, pulls away from the confines of Yasmina's mind, she already knows what she's going to do. 2 souls would get her vengeance. One she can deal with before the sun sets tonight, and the other would never reach King's Landing alive. Camp outskirts. Draco reads and rereads the report given to him by the roster of Death Dealers of the camp. Guard duty is boring work, though strictly necessary, and he himself has drilled to many aspiring recruits. The importance of such, currently, it is the Black Guard taking their turn on guarding the camp as the Death Dealers prepare for the evening meal. Draco sighs as he lets his gaze turn to the large tent where his Messiah is working on the Lady Yasmina. He has no doubts whatsoever that she can do it. However, it has been 5 hours since she started, and there seems to be no signs of change except for servants delivering hot bowls of water and clean linen every now and then. He mentally sighs at his helplessness. Draco is proud of his status as a warrior. Despite being forged into this kind of life, it is the only life he knows now. He doubts he can live another even if he wants to. The thrill of battle, the smell of the training ground, and the tactics, drills, and formations, it all defines him. He has no doubt that one day he would die on the battlefield. It is his fate. He cannot see himself dying as an old man in a rickety old rocking chair. And personally, he would not want to. Lord Draco, intruders approaching. 20 souls. The shout of the guardsman snaps Draco back out from his thoughts as he levels his spear and prepares his shield. The 5 other Black Guard members also does the same in uniform pattern. The sight of the Lady of Winterfell approaching with 20 guards makes him blink. He does not let up from his guard position, however. The camp is in lockdown, and Draco does not give a rat's arse, even if the king comes knocking, while the lockdown is not lifted by the Lady of Rivendell. Halt! Lady Stark! Come no further. To what do we owe the pleasure of this visit of your so late? Draco calls out loud to the approaching group, who stops a spear's throw away from them. His instincts are already telling him to be alert, seeing the less than friendly stares the guards of Catelyn Stark is giving. The woman herself has red-rimmed eyes, glaring hatefully at them. He has thought that she should be on her son's side by now, instead of anywhere near them. Bring me the bastard's head, whose presence becomes responsible for the tragedy of my son and your lord, she shrieks out loud. The gods demand it. Somehow, for some reason, Draco isn't surprised when the 20 Stark men charge them with shouts of battle. His body just tenses as he hefts his shield in preparation for battle. This is what he lives for.